What's up guys, Eagleman here today with another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to be opening up any wax boxes. I'm not going to be doing any mail day. So today I'm actually going to be showing the top 25 baseball cards in my collection from 1969 and earlier. I'm going to compile the decades of the 60s, 50s, 40s, and so on, just because I don't have too many cards from that era. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first card. At number 25 in my collection is the 1969 Topps Deckle Edge Pete Rose. So I based the order of these cards on a few factors. I based it on the Beckett price guide, what they had listed, but I also based it on the eBay sellings and also PSA sellings, and also my own personal opinion and preference. So I kind of used those different things to gauge where the cards in my collection fitted against each other. So at number 25, I had the 69 Deckle Edge Rose, great looking card. And then coming in at card number 24 is the 1954 Topps Roy Sievers. So this is a cool card to me. It's a larger card, so it doesn't fit into a one touch or anything. But so Roy Sievers, he finished third in the MVP voting in 1957. Behind Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams, so he was kind of overshadowed by those two players. But PSA 8 for this card sold for about 600 bucks, so that one is pretty cool. Coming up next for card number 23 is a 1969 Topps Al Kaline. So PSA 9 for this sold for about 800 bucks, and of course Al Kaline, Hall of Famer. Cool card to get. And this card is in great condition compared to the other cards I have in I'm about to show. Of course, a lot of these cards are pretty tough to keep in good condition. And then coming in at number 22 is a 1954 Topps Gus Zernial. So a PSA 9 for this sold for about 1,800 bucks. So I don't know much about Gus Zernial. Try to do a little bit of research on him. But both the Beckett and PSA and eBay are saying this card is worth something, so I figured I'll throw it into the lot. And coming in at card number 21 is a 1953 Topps Jim Waugh rookie card. So a PSA 9 for this sold for about 1,600 bucks. Again, don't know very much about the player or the card, but all the different sources are saying that it has some value to it. Now, going into our top 20, starting at 1954 Topps is a Bob Turley. So this guy has an interesting story behind him. He pitched in 5 different World Series, and he won 2 of those World Series. He was the MVP in 1958. So PSA 9 for this sells for about 800 bucks. But it is a cool story behind him, so I placed him a little bit higher. It is his rookie card too, which is also pretty cool. So rookie card of Bob Turley. And then coming in at card number 19, 1967 Topps Juan Marichal. So in my opinion, he's an underrated Hall of Famer. He's an amazing pitcher back in the day, and he was kind of overshadowed by Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson. Those are the two main pitchers of the decades. And a PSA 10 for this card sells for about a little over 1,000 bucks. And coming in at card number 18 is a 1959 Topps Richie Ashburn. So Richie Ashburn had more hits than anyone in the 1950s, which is a pretty interesting stat. He's a Hall of Famer, and then after his career in baseball, he went on to be a broadcaster for the Philadelphia Phillies for about 30 years. And a PSA 9 for this card sold for about 900 bucks. So a pretty cool story behind him. I like that card quite a bit. Now coming in at card number 17 is a 1953 Bowman Buckey Harris. So the Beckett price guide had this card listed for about 80 bucks in a high end. Buckey Harris, he's a Hall of Famer. PSA 8 sold for about 350 bucks. Throwing in an old school Bowman card, I thought we had to put this Bowman card in there. Plus it is Buckey Harris, I think he was a World Series champion, Hall of Famer obviously. And the card is pretty good looking, so I figure I'll throw that one a little bit higher than the others. Coming in after Buckey Harris, card number 16. It's 1968 Topps Roger Maris, and a PSA 10 of this sold for about $4,000. Of course, this one is in pretty rough shape. You can see an obvious crease here in the right corner. So not in the best condition. The back does look alright. Besides the crease, okay looking card. There's Roger Maris. And then coming in at card number 15 is actually my favorite card in this showcase here is a 1940 play ball Tris speaker. It's actually the oldest card that I'm going to be showcasing in today's video. Tris speaker, I'm a huge Cleveland Indians fan, so this card is definitely worth a little bit more to me, but I had to fit it in at spot number 15. He's a Hall of Famer, he's a Cleveland Indian, so that's what I love. It's of his manager, so he's a manager in this time frame. As you can see, the back is pretty messed up, and I'll explain how I got this card later, and you'll see why in the first one or two cards in the spot. But yeah, this Tris speaker PSA 8 sold only for about 500 bucks, so it's not worth too much. But Tris speaker, I think one of the greatest hitters to be talked about in baseball history, and definitely one of my favorite cards in my collection. Coming in at spot number 14 is a 1964 Topps Tommy John rookie card. So this one was pretty cool. Came across this one in a random mail day video. This card was thrown in there. It's in pretty rough shape. You can see the corners are pretty fuzzed up. It's off center and a few creases on it, so not in the best shape. But a PSA 10 for this can sell for about 4,400 bucks. And obviously Tommy John is the surgery named after this guy right here, and a Cleveland Indian, so even better. And coming in at spot number 13 is a 1969 Topps Pete Rose. So we're going to see Pete Rose's name quite a bit in this showcase. So this is the 69 Topps Pete Rose Sporting News subset card. It like makes the puzzle, which is a pretty cool card. PSA 10 for this sells for about 5,200 bucks. And this card right here, it's in alright condition, off center a little bit, and the corners are a little bit dinged in, but the color on it looks really nice. So that's a good looking card to me. And then coming in at spot number 12, 1969 Topps once again. This is of Ted Williams. So Teddy Ballgame. This is when he was a manager on the Washington Senators. And PSA 10 for this sold for about 3,800 bucks. Another good looking card from that set. Coming in after Ted is a 1968 Topps, once again Pete Rose. And the 68 Topps set is a beautiful set. It's one of my favorite sets from the 60s. So having it as from a Pete Rose is definitely really cool. PSA 10 for this guy sold for about $8,000. And yeah, I just love this set quite a bit. We'll see this set pop up in a few more spots. And now we're moving on to our top 10 spots. Coming in at number 10 is a 1966 Topps Fergie Jenkins rookie card. He's featured on this card along with Bill Sorrell, so a lot of people don't like the double pictured rookie cards, but that's what some of the cards were like back in the 60s, much like the Nolan Ryan rookie card. But yeah, this Fergie Jenkins rookie card from 1966 Topps, PSA 10 sold for about $9,000. Coming in at spot number 9 is 1960 Topps All-Star Hank Aaron. So this is the All-Star subset, and this is of Hank Aaron. This card was actually one of the first cards in my collection. I got it from my aunt, who was giving away a bunch of cards in her collection, and this card somehow snuck in there. So a PSA 8 OC sold for about $3,000 back in the day. Can't imagine what a PSA 10 would sell for. But this card is in alright condition. There's a little bit of a crease over here. It's a little bit faded, but other than that, a really cool card to have in the collection. Another horizontal card. And then coming in at spot number 8 is a very fun card that I opened up in a mail day not too long ago. 1952 Topps George Kell. So George Kell, he's a Hall of Famer, and he holds the MLB record for the least number of strikeouts in a single season, which was about 13. He had 13 strikeouts in one season, and I think he batted over 300 in that same season. So George Kell, Hall of Famer, and a PSA 8.5 of this card sold for about 1,600 bucks. This is my only 1952 Topps card. 52 Topps are definitely really sought after, especially for the Mickey Mantle and the other big name players. But for now, I just have this card, which is certainly within my price range. And then coming in at spot number 7 is a 1967 Topps Carl Yastrzemski. And a PSA 10 for this sold for about $11,000. This was also one of the first few cards in my collection in terms of vintage cards. And this one's also in pretty decent shape. Now coming in spot number 6 is another 1968 Topps card. This is of Willie Mays. Now this card I think is in the best condition among all the cards I'm going to be featuring in this video. This 68 Topps Mays is gorgeous. I'm considering sending it into PSA to get it graded. I can tell it's a little bit off center top to bottom, but a little bit off center left to right, but other than that, the corners are decently sharp. The color on it's great. There's no creases, no surface issues that I can find. But this 68 Topps Maze in a PSA 10 sold for about $12,500. And it's definitely one of the most beautiful cards I have in terms of vintage stuff. Now we're moving on to our top 5 cards. Coming in at spot number 5 is 1965 Topps Frank Robinson. So another cool card, especially in terms of being an Indians fan. Frank Robinson, definitely a really cool one to have. PSA 10 for this Frank sold for about $38,000. So we're starting to get up there in price range for PSA 10s. Obviously, a lot of these cards are not in PSA 10 form, but I think it's noteworthy to see what the PSA graded versions of these cards go for in the higher graded stuff. And this Frank Robinson definitely ranked pretty well in terms of that. Coming in at spot number 4 is a 1965 Topps. Once again, this is of Hank Aaron. So the color on this is beautiful, except for the fact the surface is a little bit damaged. You see a little bit of snowflaking going on, as well as a little crease in the top. But other than that, it's a gorgeous card. And obviously Hank Aaron, can't beat it. So this card sold for PSA 10 for about $25,000. Now we're getting into our top 3. Coming in at spot number 3 is Hank Aaron, once again, the 1960 Topps Hank Aaron. This one is in a little bit rougher shape than the last Hank Aaron's we saw. This one again has a little bit snowflaking going on, a little bit corner pushed in the top right. But it is a true 1960 Topps Hank Aaron. The PSA 9 of this card sold for about $42,500. So great card, another great horizontal card. Now we're getting into our top 2. Coming in will be Ted Williams, 1941 Play Ball. And this one is definitely a very cool card that I was super excited to find. So 1941 was the same year that Ted Williams hit 406, the 406 average. And this card, again, is in pretty rough shape. You can see how it got peeled off right there. Like I was explaining with the Tris speaker card, this card, along with the Tris speaker and along with a bunch of other cards, I found in an old scrapbook that my aunt gave to me. And that scrapbook came from her uncle, and he used to collect cards back in the day. And a bunch of these cards were just pasted into the scrapbook. So when I got it, I found a bunch of these cards and I had to carefully peel them off as best as I could. But there was obviously some damage done to them. This one turned out alright, not too much damage to it, but the color is still pretty well noticeable. Not too many surface issues I can see on it. But this 41 Williams in a PSA 8 sold for about $8,000. And it's just a great looking card. A lot of sentimental value to it, with me at least. But now, for the #1 card in my collection, from the exact same set, 1941 Play Ball, Joe DiMaggio. So, interesting thing about this, there's a signature on this card. You can see kind of reflect in the light. It's kind of imprinted into the card. This card could be autographed. It came from the same binder from the Ted Williams and the Tris speaker and all the other cards. And there were a bunch of cards in there that were autographed from different players. This card happened to be autographed as well. So if this card happens to be authentic with the true Joe DiMaggio autograph, that would certainly be worth quite a bit. But I'm truly convinced that this card is, as it is, an authentic Joe DiMaggio 1941 Play Ball card. PSA 10 of this exact card sold for $750,000. This was the same year that he won the MVP, and if we look at the back is pretty beat up. It had a pretty rough going, getting pulled out of the binder. I did my best to not damage it, but damage was already done at that point. But it's still probably the most valuable card, no doubt, in my collection, especially if it is true that it is autographed. Considering where it came from, I wouldn't be surprised, if it was an autograph. But there it is, the 1941 Joe DiMaggio from the Play Ball set. So there you guys have it. That'll be my top 25 cards from 1940 through 1969. go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned for the next top 25 videos of my collection from each decade. I'm going to spend some time compiling up those videos, so go ahead and like and subscribe for more of those videos to come, and I will see you guys next time.